Okay, hello, Ariel.
Hey, hey.
Okay, so we are back with another episode of Moved by Media, and today we are talking about Confessions of a Video Vixen by
Mm.
Corinne Steffens by Superhead. That book that changed all of our lives, low key, when we were
Yeah.
younger. And so Ariel and I recently decided to reread it together. She was like, I think I'm about to reread. And I was like, ooh, let me join you. Because I personally have not read it since middle school, like eighth grade, maybe ninth grade. When did you read it first? Do you remember?
I'm trying to think. I think it was high school, maybe like junior year or something like that.
Okay, yeah, when we both didn't have no business reading it. Uh, I think that's the commonality here. But it was like a book that was like being passed around. Like everybody was like, oh, you got to read this. You got to read this. And
Yeah.
so going into it, I personally was like, oh, I remember it was so juicy. It had so much tea. And then it kind of like shocked my sensibilities reading it as an adult. When you went into it this time, what was your memory from before? Like, how were you feeling about rereading it?
Yeah, I think similar to you. My recollection of reading it back in the day was like, oh my God, all these men so scandalous. Oh my goodness, this person and
Mm-hmm.
this person. But like reading it this time and knowing what I know and being, a woman in her late 30s, it got dark very quick.
Yeah, very quick. Like, let's talk about before we get into the stuff that we probably remember most vividly from the book.
Mhm.
When she talked about her early life, I didn't remember any of that.
Yeah, me either. I literally thought to myself, like, okay, did I just skip ahead and not read like those first few chapters? Because I mean, reading it now, I was like, this is crazy. It was just
Hmm.
one thing after another.
Yeah, I cried. I cried. I was like, okay, wait. I had to put it down because, again, I went into it thinking like, oh yeah, this is when she talked about all the celebrity tea and all of what they was doing and who was cheating on who and who she was getting money from and who was paying her bills. Like those were the things I remembered. But hearing
Mhm.
about her childhood, and I mean, she starts the book out like, I hate my mom. And
Yeah.
in recent years we've heard about, is her name Jeanette McCurry, is that her name, am I getting it right,
Uh huh.
from iCarly? Yes, like
Yeah.
her book, I think it's called I'm Glad My Mom Is Dead or something like that. And so we hear that kind of stuff more like current date, where people are being more open about talking about difficult relationships and saying things that you normally wouldn't say, that would be considered a faux pas. But like back then nobody was saying that kind of stuff out loud, and so for her to just open it up with like, hey, immediately let me let y'all know I hate my mom, and then going into all of the things that happened to her in her childhood, down to her first sexual experience being that like
Ooh.
horrific assault, and then her
Yeah.
mom like beating her bloody after that. I was like, can I finish this? Like it was a lot. And I don't really like have a bunch of triggers and things. Like I can read most stuff, but I think knowing it was real life and also knowing where her life ended up, it just broke my heart.
Yeah, and I think she did a great job with the storytelling because her describing that first sexual experience, I had chills, but I could visualize literally everything that she was saying, and it made me even more scared. Like, oh my, I I really I really emphasize with women who have been through those experiences because I just can't even imagine what my mental state would be, especially that young.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And then like she goes from that to what I felt like, okay, it's gonna be a better situation with her dad. And then that goes left. Like,
Yeah.
how much can a person take? And then that, leads her to eventually her first husband, if you will, Cool G Rap.
Mm-hmm.
And that whole experience, like I remembered like, okay, she was in a like a serious relationship for a while with a rapper, and I couldn't remember who it was and I didn't remember the details. But reading it this time, I was just like, How could a person do this to another person? I was
Yeah,
blown
he did her
away.
so dirty.
Yeah, and even just like all the pregnancies and miscarriages, and then she gets pregnant, and he's just like, "Well, I'm moving my other girlfriend in." Like, what is going on here?
And for somebody to be jealous of their child is
Uh,
crazy.
Devastating. Like, to go through all of that and then turn around and have that be the outcome was just heartbreaking. So
Hmm.
I think that takes us up to probably the parts we remember best.
Yeah.
So let me start by asking you, who, take this with a grain of salt. Who was your favorite story? And I'm putting air quotes, favorite story about, like person that she interacted with, dealt with, who was like, okay, that, and not like favorite, like I really liked that person, but maybe most entertaining and or most shocking and or you were like, okay, I like that.
I don't know, because really all of them, I was like,
If you had to pick one.
it was just one disaster after another. But you know what? I appreciated, I guess, her relationship with Ice T, because he didn't even know her and was like, "Hey, I'm finna take you under my wing and I'm finna give you whatever money that you need. I'm gonna keep taking care of you." But
Mhm.
he also had enough boundaries to say, like, "Look, I'm finna get this job in New York and I'm not finna keep supporting you. You're gonna have to figure it out, but I know that you can."
I was gonna say the same person. So Ice T was probably also my like warm fuzzy, where I was like,
Yeah.
okay, he did pretty good, And I know she said he had a girlfriend at the time, that they were, kind of dealing, but she's like, one, like you said, he had the boundary where he was like, okay, this is enough. I'm ending it here, and obviously we know he went on to be with Coco, and they've been together
Mhm.
for millenniums now, and so I just really that one was like, wow, he really took her from one place to another. Now, it also made me think like, but was it a bad thing that he did? You know what I mean? Like,
Mhm.
I don't know, because would her situation have been worse had she never moved to Hollywood, or would it have been, maybe a little better, maybe not as fun or as glamorous, but a little better. But if I couldn't say Ice T, I am gonna say Ray J.
Mm.
Now, I have a soft spot for Ray J in general. I know he's interesting and acquired taste. But I have a
Very much.
soft spot for Ray J anyway. And hearing the way she talked about their relationship, obviously the age gap, and I didn't look up what exactly the age gap was, but she was older than him. But
Mm.
the way she talked about the innocence of their relationship, like we were really in love, and it just, didn't work out because he ended up finding out who I really was and the type of things that I had been doing career wise. But, we really were in love, and we would go watch funny movies together and just enjoy each other, and it was just an innocent pure relationship. I enjoyed that, reading that part.
Yeah, it was very innocent. It seemed like, and obviously I don't know the Norwood family, but I think based off of stories that we've heard about Brandy and Ray J, and like the way that their parents have raised them, we've seen it a little bit on their reality show. Like, the Brandy and Ray J were kind of like coddled a little bit, especially
Yeah.
growing up in show business. So I can definitely see how probably his mom more so than his dad was like, hell no.
I actually just finished listening to Brandy's book yesterday, which I highly recommend if anybody
Okay.
hasn't listened to it. The first little quarter, I was like, and then it got really good, and I like cried and cried and cried. So it was really good. I highly recommend it. But it lends to the exact point you made. Like, they had this wholesome image back in the day, that I could imagine, he would have a hard time tarnishing. Obviously, it got tarnished with the Kardashian situation and whatnot. But
Mhm.
prior to that, when he was still a teenager, I'm sure that would have been a difficult sale. Now, who was your
Uh, the first thing that comes to mind is when she said she would have to flip her
Oh my
mattress every
God!
time she had sex with Shaq. Like,
Same.
gross.
Like flipping your mattress because he's sweating it out so bad is wild to me. I was grossed out.
And I mean, Shaq is a big man, just like in general. And
Hmm.
I think, I don't know if Karen Steffens describes like her stature in detail in the book, but I feel like from us seeing her on TV, she's probably no taller than maybe like 5'3", 5'4".
Yeah, she looks pretty small.
Like,
Yeah.
she probably was drowning in
Oh,
seawater. Ew.
oh, I wouldn't be able to do it.
I
Oh
couldn't
my
do it.
goodness. That was also my moment, but I'm trying to think because I feel like there had to be another. Um, the way that Irv Gotti treated her was another for me. Like when she was like, he would want me to tell him in graphic detail about sex I had with other men. And he got mad when she wouldn't describe sex with Diddy and you know how big his stuff was. And like I'm just like, oh, how weird is that? You know,
Yeah, that
everybody
was
got their own
definitely
kinks,
weird.
but that was a lot for me.
Yeah, and I mean, just being with Irv after your association with Ja Rule, it's like,
Yeah.
okay, you just loving the crew for real.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I was pleased that she didn't have anything to say about Lorenz Tate. So when she mentioned being in the movie with him, I was like, oh no. And then she was like, oh no, I had a thing with Vin Diesel, but Lorenz Tate was a perfect gentleman. So, you know, I loved those little moments where it was like, phew,
Yeah.
okay, somebody, you know, they dodged it, you know.
Yeah, for sure. Because you can't say nothing bad about Lorenz Tate. I'll just slide down the wall.
Right, right. Like I hold him in such high regard. So I was glad to see that. Another moment for me was the way Fred Durst treated her.
Yeah, and moment for me aside from Fred Durst, because I just don't picture him in that way at all.
Hmm.
Like Jay Z. And I mean, she describes it as a very brief interaction, but it's just
Hmm.
like, oh yeah, let me show you where the beach is at. Pull that thing out. Let's get to
Right?
it.
Ain't that crazy? But I was glad that like she was like after that he never treated her weird. You know, like it was just
Mm.
content, whatever. Unlike Diddy, who at the party when she was with Exhibit, he like be careful with her. She'll tell people she got a video of you eating her booty hole. Like, what are we talking about here? And she's like, we never did that. So I don't know why he's saying that.
He probably was eating other people's booty holes,
Or
i.e., men.
listen, ain't no telling. And then she mentioned that when they got to the club with him, it was like a gay club or whatever. And so it's
Mhm.
like knowing what we know now, none of it is shocking. And
Yeah.
I'm like, wow, I don't even remember reading that back then. But now just connecting those dots that like he had a lot going on many years ago.
Hmm.
So that was definitely interesting. Um, so I think one of the most jarring things, and is it surprising? I don't know, but it was jarring nonetheless, was when she got down on her luck. Like she said, her and her kid were sleeping in a
Yeah.
car, they didn't have nowhere to use the bathroom, to shower, etc. And she starts reaching out to all these people that she's party with. They've given her thousands of dollars before, they've spent thousands of dollars together, and she just like, hey, I just need a little money for a hotel room for the night, you know, nothing even high. And they like, it ain't nothing I can do for you. And so it brings into question like this theme of being desired versus being valued. You know,
Mm.
like what's the difference between attention and care, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I think that she describes that very well because, and I know we've spoken about this a little bit before, but like everything that happens in this book in this wild ride that she goes on is only like a year and a half, maybe 2 years.
Yeah.
So knowing that like you've made your way around all these different circles in such a quick amount of time and you've made your own money as like a video girl and you just live in that wild life, not even able to maintain it. And based on her childhood trauma and everything, there's already a difference between desire and value that she has in her head. And I think that she, finally realizes that when she's down on her luck.
Absolutely, absolutely. And it just is, you know, that's such a sobering moment just to realize that Just because you're up with people, it doesn't mean that they will be down with you, you know?
Mm-hmm. They
And
wouldn't be shooting in the gym.
right, a really, really valuable lesson. And so I know over the years there has been conversation about whether or not everything in this book is factual. Do you believe her?
I do, because it's almost, I mean, she's putting herself out there. So what reason would she have to lie about adding all of those bodies to her count, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't seem fabricated. I mean, we were watching it on TV during this time, but we were in middle school and high school. Like, we didn't know the depths of everything that was going on. And now, 20, 30 years later, we've seen all these documentaries, and like, we're really paying attention to the lyrics and the music and stuff like that. So it's definitely believable.
Yeah, I agree. Like, I can't think of anything that feels like I don't know if I believe that. You know, like there
Mm-hmm.
was nothing in the book that felt off kilter or unbelievable to me. And especially because she rarely talked bad about anybody. And
Right.
so even in this, she's like, he was really, really nice. This is what happened. It wasn't like, and then he dogged me out and then he did me wrong. Like she was just very much like, me and DMX had a little thing. We used to argue a lot. That was our thing. He would yell at me. He'd tell me I ain't never gonna find another nigga like him. I tell him yes I am. We did that for a while, and it just kind of faded away. And sometimes you still might catch us rolling around. Rest in peace DMX. But you still might
Right.
catch us rolling around, LA or Hollywood, just vibing out. Like it never felt like she was trying to hurt anybody in saying this as opposed to telling her truth. Now, obviously, a lot of these men are married, so there is going to be some hurt feelings in it.
Mm-hmm.
But also, the old saying goes, if you didn't want me to write badly about you, then you shouldn't have, whatever, done what you did to be written badly about, basically. So,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And to that point, like, do you think that her sexual freedom and her experiences, do you think that she was empowered or was she exploited?
I think a little. I think that once she realized that, I mean, essentially her pussy was power, or
Mm-hmm.
perceived to be power, then she definitely used that to her advantage. Of course, getting money when she needed to, and people were buying her cars, and her apartment was paid for, and all this other stuff. But she was definitely exploited. That goes back to us talking about her relationship with Irv Gotti, and how he used to like send her off with other men. It's just I, what makes it really sad for me, we read the, or I don't know if you read the 20th anniversary version, where like she kind of has an interview, and she talks about like how she feels about the book now and everything. And it still was kind of sad to me that, even though at the end of the book that she wrote 20 years ago, there was like a light at the end of the tunnel, and she was like turning a new leaf and seeking out therapy. But I vividly recall her having that same pattern of relationships
Mm-hmm.
very publicly with Columbus Short and then Darius McCreary.
Mm-hmm.
So it's
And
just like,
Bow
dang,
Wow
like,
and Lil
right. It's
Wayne.
like the
Mm-hmm.
cycle just continued even after, you seem to have made this breakthrough at the end of the book that was 25 years old.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I agree with you. You know, I think it started out as exploitation and she took it and turned it into some form of empowerment, that like I can benefit from this, I can take care of myself from this. But I certainly think that on their end, and I think that's what we seen when she was down on her luck and she could no longer trade her, beauty for currency anymore because we don't
Mm-hmm.
feel like exploiting you anymore, so ultimately, like, do you have some power? Yes, but you don't hold all the power because you need a thing from them.
Mm-hmm.
So I agree. And to your point about her relationships after that, yeah, like it just seemed to be a continuous situation. Now, who was benefiting what, I don't know. Because at one point she was married to Darius McQuarrie, right?
Yeah, I think she was married to Columbus Short too.
Oh, okay. I didn't realize they were married too. So, obviously it was a more serious affair, but to what end? To what end?
Yeah.
Do you think that there could be another storyteller of this nature in today's time, with social media being what it is, with hip hop culture evolving into what it is? Do you think that in 2026 a new girl could make a book like this and say, here's all my stories, and that it would have the same impact that Corinne Steffens did?
Oh, that's a good question because I'm honestly racking my brain to see if there's someone that I know currently that would probably have that type of tea.
Mm-hmm.
The first person who comes to mind is probably Drea Michelle.
Oh, touche. That's a good one.
So I mean, would I read her book? I don't know. I don't know. I think in the age of social media, to your point, everything is already out there. So doing a tell-all book, are you giving me some real exclusive tea?
Mm-hmm. Or what about like a Bria Miles or Ari
Mm.
Fletcher?
Oh, now Ari Fletcher would probably be a good one
Mhm.
because I mean,
Not to say
from
she gets around, but she's just been around the
yeah,
industry for a while.
exactly, because like from my knowledge, her and G Herbo were together since like high school, or they
Mm-hmm.
met really young, and then it's like they broke up when he was almost at the peak of
Mm-hmm.
his stardom. So starting over when you started from the bottom with somebody, I can imagine would be an interesting story to read.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. And I think in the days of cancel culture and social media culture, I wonder if it would even be as well received as Corinne Steffens was, or if people
Hmm.
would try to cancel or quiet her, or if the people that she talked about would get canceled. Like I wonder which direction it would go, because I think a lot of times, women are obviously held accountable for the actions of men. So I think people would villainize the woman more than they would the men doing the wrong things.
Yeah, and I mean, I feel like that's probably how it was when she came out with the book. No one was looking at Ja Rule and Irv Gotti and Shaq like, oh my God, you guys were so wrong. It was like, why would you release a book like that, basically telling everybody that you were a hoe?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Exactly. And not questioning these men who like, hey, why were you cheating on your wife? Why were
Exactly.
you, and you all cheating on your wife and girlfriends? And then I don't know if you remember when like it came out who what was she calling him?
Did she call him like Papa or something?
Yeah, when it came out who he was, and it was like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
it's Method Man, and everybody was like, oh my God. But looking at it, like back then, I remember like, oh, he was so good to her, so on and so forth. And looking at it now, I mean, he still was kind to her and whatnot. And again, she didn't really talk terribly about anybody, but
Yeah.
I'm also like, but there was a point where he like, what if my wife was here? And I'm like, so you was married and doing it too. As much as we love Method Man, very fine, very sexy, but dang, you too.
Yeah. That's what would kill me is when she would be in these situations and she explicitly said like, "Hey, I fall in love with basically every nigga I've been with."
Right. She
But
thinks she
like when
me.
the exactly when the guys would say like, "Oh, well, you knew what it was," okay, but you're here too. Why is it only one
Right.
sided?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Exactly. Exactly. So, last question. What moved you about this piece of media?
Man, I would just say the perseverance of it all, and I mean, I'm looking beyond the book. Like I mentioned earlier, like we noticed a pattern of those continued relationships, but in this 20th anniversary version of the book, and her talking about how like, hey, I'm still in therapy, I'm still having breakthroughs about my childhood trauma and the lifestyle that I lived for 18 months and even beyond that, like it's just all about me and me having the best relationship that I can with my son, and just making my family and myself proud of me. And that part really moved me, because it would be easy for her to stay in that slump situation that she was in, where she was living in her car and she got evicted, and like all her stuff got repoed. She could have just given up then and there. And I mean, she even talks about being that low, where she took a whole bottle of pills, and like her son was in the other room and stuff
Hmm.
like that. So like, just knowing that she was able to move past that and still have a story to tell is the best part of any story.
I love that. I love that. Well, thank you for joining me for this conversation. This was
Of
great.
course.